Hello, and welcome to the Proactive Caregiving Podcast. As a CPA with over 20 years as an industry accountant, Jessica stepped away from the corporate world to become a full-time caregiver for her mother. Having learned invaluable lessons along the way, she is now here to share those with you and to invite you to join her on this caregiver's journey. Here is your host, Jessica Cannon.
Welcome to Episode 2 of Medicare with Joe and Monique Barajas. Like I said before, we knew this would be an in-depth conversation, so get your notes back out as we pick up where we left off talking about the donut hole. And last time we actually spoke of several areas that we didn't have a chance to get into, so this time I wanted to go a little further. And one of those areas that there is some confusion around is what people call the donut hole, what Medicare refers to as the donut hole. And that is, I can see why it would be a little confusing with there being 4 stages. Can you break those down for me?
So, as you said, there are 4 stages to the coverage gap. It's over the years grown the name the donut hole because there's a gap. You lose a gap or you have a gap of coverage. So in the first stage, if you pick a prescription drug plan, and again, this would be a separate insurance from your original Medicare Part A and B that you would purchase by itself. If you have purchased a separate Part D plan, prescription drug plan, you would have the annual deductible stage. That is stage 1, if that plan has a deductible. What that means is, whatever the deductible number is, you would pay 100% of the cost of your drug until you reach that annual deductible.
Can I add also that you can have with the Medicare Advantage plan with prescriptions that some of the prescription drugs, like the tier 3s, which are like the name brand drugs or specialty,
Right.
You will have most likely have a deductible for those. So that also takes into effect if you have a Medicare Advantage plan.
Right. The stages that I'm going to describe are for a standalone Part D plan, but they also transfer over if you have a Medicare Advantage plan that has a Part D built into the plan. So it's not like you have to learn a different donut hole or different coverage gap by having a Medicare Advantage plan with prescription drugs or by having a standalone Part D plan. It's the same once you learn one. Now the figures could change. The annual deductible number could be different. The co-pays, the co-payments, all that stuff could be different. But the stages are the same on either side. So the second stage is called the initial coverage stage, where you, as the member, would pay a copay or a coinsurance, depending on which prescription drug you need, and the plan you select would pay the balance. If you pay, a certain amount per year, and the plan pays a certain amount per year, and you reach a figure, a yearly figure, then you will lose the plan's help paying for the prescription drug. That would put you into this coverage gap. But before you get there, I do want to state that this coverage gap, everybody hears about it and they get pretty nervous thinking, oh no, I could hit the gap. And, is this going to be a situation where I purchase a drug plan, I have one drug, and now I'm going to get into this donut hole? That's not the case. It basically takes into account what your copay is plus the company that's going to pay. So you pay $5 for a $50 drug. The plan you select pays $45. That adds up to $50. That $50, not your $5, is going to subtract from whatever the yearly limit that you have to reach is. If you reach that yearly limit, and that's the key word there, if. Mm-hmm. If you do reach it, that's where you go into the coverage gap or the donut hole. And what happens when you do reach that is the plan, even though it's going to be there to help with some drug discounts, basically the plan takes a step back and lets you pay 25% of the drug cost for your generics and your brand name. There's another limit within the gap that you could reach if you have not come to January 1st. Because so the January 1st timeframe kind of helps you reset back to the annual deductible stage or the initial coverage stage. But assuming you haven't reached January 1st yet, when you're in this coverage gap, you stay there until you reach another yearly limit. And the reason I'm not stating the limits is because they do vary year to year.
Right. And the 25%.
The 25% stays pretty fixed, but you would stay with the 25%. Now, if you do reach the yearly limit in the coverage gap, you would then go to the 4th stage, which is known as the catastrophic coverage. And once you reach that, instead of your drug costs going up, they actually go down. where you would pay a fixed copay for your generics. But if you have a brand name or any kind of specialty drug, you would either pay a copay or co-insurance, depending on whichever is greater. And in that stage, you would stay there until January 1st. If you get into that, that's why it's called catastrophic. Those are the 4 stages. Yeah, they kind of
say, okay, you've paid, you've paid a lot, so we're going to give you a break on the catastrophic side.
That's a relief, especially when you
exactly, and especially if you're taking really expensive drugs. So we have clients that take, specialty drugs that they add up fast. They can get in the donut hole in the second month of the year.
Wow,
it's protection, so it's a good thing.
Absolutely. So, being in that, we're looking at protection, and when you were talking insurance, having the supplemental plans and knowing how much insurance do I have, is there such a thing that I would have too much insurance, or can I actually double up and get insurance on both ends with the supplementals?
So the only time you can double up, like I mentioned in last episode, is that if you have VA. So you could have VA coverage and, like, for example, VA TRICARE,
right,
and an Advantage plan. That's a special circumstance. But in any other case, you cannot have a supplement and an Advantage plan. You cannot be double covered, or you can't have an employer group plan and a supplement, or an employer group plan and an Advantage plan.
Okay. So it has to be a one.
Yeah, and Joe, I think, has a good story about that.
So the story that I have a few years back, I had met with a lady who had a Medicare supplement, and the intention was to get her on a Medicare Advantage, educate her about it and pick her options. After I did, kind of go over some of her options and educate her on a Medicare Advantage plan, she decided to show me a second card, which was a Medicare Advantage card. And I was kind of shocked because she had both a Medicare supplement and a Medicare Advantage. And everything that we had been trained and taught was that you cannot have both. You cannot have a Medicare supplement with a Medicare Advantage plan. So I did some digging and some confirming that she did have an active Medicare Advantage plan along with an active Medicare supplement. And since I knew that the Medicare supplement would never pay, because Medicare supplements will only ever pay if Medicare pays first.
I see.
And when you have a Medicare Advantage plan, the Medicare Advantage is the primary insurance payer. So Medicare doesn't pay any of the doctor or hospital bills in that situation. So it's the reason our training says you should never have a Medicare supplement with a Medicare Advantage is because you would be paying a supplement company a monthly premium for it to never work. What I wound up doing in that situation, it didn't make sense for me to get her on an Advantage plan because she already had one and it was one that fit her needs. But I did wind up helping her go back to the start date, which was almost 5 years that she had the supplement and the Medicare Advantage together, request a full refund from the supplement company because, even the supplement company knew that she should not have had the supplement paired with the Advantage.
That's amazing.
Now, I can't say there was anything shady going on because the supplement company did give the money back. But one thing I will say is that even if you pick a company that has both a Medicare Advantage and they also have a Medicare supplement, their divisions don't talk to each other.
Oh, right.
So it is very possible that you can have the same company and be on those two plans and then say, but why didn't, which is what this lady told me, well, why didn't they ever notify me? How come I didn't get a letter? And I asked her, did you ever need to use the Medicare supplement? And thank goodness in the last 5 years or at that time, she just never had to use it. So that's why it never came up. And we kind of caught it in time.
And just to add on to that, we always tell our agents, if you're switching from a supplement to an Advantage to save that premium, you always have to let your supplement company know that you want to cancel. Or like in her case, she probably didn't. And so they have no idea. Right. So she's going to still be paying that premium and not even be able to use it so it's just really important for anyone listening, if you're considering switching from a supplement to a Medicare Advantage, you have to call your supplement company and make sure you cancel with your supplement company. Now, if you have a drug plan, because it's run through CMS, if you switch to a Medicare Advantage plan with prescription drugs, it would cancel that. Okay. We just don't want our clients getting double charged for getting something like that. I know last time we were talking about misconceptions, and I hear this all the time, and I don't know why I just thought of it, but every time I talk to somebody, they think that their Medicare is being replaced. The quote unquote replacement. And so I just want people to know that if they're getting on an Advantage plan, their Medicare is not getting replaced.
I see.
It's not a replacement. You have to have your A and B. When they hear Medicare replacement card,
they think they lose Medicare.
And it's not the case. You have to have Medicare A and B to get on an Advantage plan. The only thing is you keep your Medicare card at home in a safe place. You don't show it to a provider or pharmacy. You show the Advantage plan card, because the Advantage plan card covers everything, because it combines everything into one card.
So it's in addition to, not
right. And so I just wanted to clarify that.
That's a good point to make.
Yeah, and I think in the last episode I may have mentioned, but it bears reiterating that the Medicare itself is designed, when you get on an Advantage plan, it's designed to pay the Advantage company to take care of you. And so the reason for the lower premiums is because there's funds that Medicare is taking from you on your Social Security, from your Social Security, and then they're turning around and they're sending it to the Medicare Advantage company. So in Medicare's eyes, every single month, they're already paying your hospital and doctor bill, right? But they're paying it in the form of your premium so that you can have this Advantage plan that's offering you the same Part A that you would have if you had Medicare by itself, the same Part B, and then it's offering you the additional benefits that the Advantage company is promising. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, in this topic.
With all this information that's out there, it's easy to be confused, for one, and because of that confusion, it seems like it's also easy for people out there to take advantage of seniors who don't know better, and even now our younger caregivers who, again, may not know better or any different, because there are so many details. So if someone was going to reach out to either you or not, if they looked at something like Medicare.gov, what would they find if they went and looked something?
Yeah, no, that's a really good website to look. Medicare.gov. Anything with a .gov is a government site. Social Security, SSA.gov. What we hear now is these scammers are on SSA.com, Medicare.com, and so that can be really confusing. So just knowing the URL, anything with a .gov, that's a government website. And I actually got a call yesterday from a client of mine who got a call, I say quote unquote call, from somebody from Social Security in New York City. Now my client's in Texas. Why is he getting a call from New York City? So it was already a red flag. And he was like already asking questions. And my client's like, oh, why don't you just mail me something? So my client called me right away and was like, I think I got scammed. And so I got on the computer and I checked and I said, sure enough, that phone number was a scammer's number. I said, Social Security will never call you.
Right.
So just keep in mind, just want to put it out there in the universe. You're not going to get a call from Social Security.
No, you have to call them.
You have to call them. And if you're already getting Medicare or on Social Security, you know what those letterheads look like. Yeah, they'll send you letters before they give you a call.
Yeah, pretty much it's Medicare wouldn't send you something that says Medicare. It's actually the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, otherwise known as CMS. You might get something in the mail that says CMS, and that's real. Or I guess they could spam that too, but for the most part, that's real. But if you're being told to go to MedicareUSA.com, I think there's MedicareCompareUSA.com.
Yeah, there's so many names.
Yeah, Medicare101.com. Anything that says, even if it has Medicare's name in it, .com, it's a sales agency or a fraudulent one or whatever the case is. Because realistically, for the information that you need, you go to either Medicare.gov, G-O-V, or SSA.gov. Social Security Administration, that's what SSA stands for.
Right. Yeah. And another thing to add is around this time in September, everyone who's on Medicare is going to be receiving a book from Medicare. It's called Medicare and You. And everyone on Medicare receives this book. And it literally has all the plans in your area and any changes. So that's another really good resource if you don't have access to a computer or you just like to prefer something visual like I do. I like to
Absolutely.
see things and touch and feel. So you'll receive a book that actually has, all the plans in your area.
Also, too, I know that I get some clients telling me, oh, I got a call from somebody from Medicare and they wanted to help me enroll in my numerous Medicare Advantage or my numerous prescription drug options. And, it can be confusing because unless you prompted a call from Medicare, because Medicare will call you back, but unless you prompted a call from Medicare, again, it's probably a sales agent trying to get you to get into a plan that you may not be ready to, or, hopefully they're giving you the proper information. But if you were to call Medicare, what could happen is they could turn you over to not necessarily a sales agent, but just somebody who's there to let you know your options. And they can help you auto enroll, but they're not sales agents. They won't be able to give you, they won't be able to sit there and say what Monique and I could say, like, well, I'm certified for this company, and all of these benefits, and here's how the nuances work, and here's how the doctors work. It's going to be real neutral information. It says it's a zero premium there. It says it has this deductible here or copay or whatever it says.
Factual.
And that's it. That could happen. But again, it has to be something where you've either called in or you've prompted a phone call back. If you just get a random call saying they're from Medicare, trying to sign you up, and they sound like they know way more about the plans than they probably should, that's more than likely a sales call.
And you also want to just ask the questions, If someone's calling you, just say, okay, who do you represent? What's your name? Are you licensed?
Which we have to disclose.
As licensed agents, yes, you can make a call for a supplement, but never for an Advantage plan. We cannot make solicitation calls for Advantage plan. So just know that if you're going to get a call, it's probably for a supplement. It's probably from a sales agent. But just ask the questions like, okay, where are you from again? Are you local? Like, you just got to be educated and just know before you give out your social security number or before you give out your Medicare number.
And that's the scary thing is that you're the one that needs the service, or what you need, what your illnesses are. So if they're just trying to get personal information from you without even providing you with knowledge of anything else, then you're most likely not speaking to someone that is legit.
Yeah, we don't ask for any of that unless you've already given the whole presentation and you're ready to enroll. That's when we collect the Medicare number to get the enrollment. So, there's a lot more processes before we even ask for that. It's mainly like, and most of the time it's you reaching out to me asking about Medicare. So, or Medicare Advantage. So like I said earlier, we can't really be out there promoting just cold calling people talking about Medicare Advantage in particular.
Right. Because that's what happens. Like Joe was mentioning earlier, there's a gentleman that was saying, hey, basically has this policy and I want basically what they have. And you're contacting that person. Well, how did you find it? Where did you get it? Oh, I don't know. Go on this Medicare.com or
Correct.
You could get wrong information and by accident.
And luckily a lot of our agents, we work on referrals. So, if our customers, like we said earlier, they're like, oh my God, you saved my life, or oh my God, this and that. You've been such a help. They tell their friends and they call us directly. So they know exactly who they are. And then they tell me, okay, Billy sent me to you or whatever. And it's such a good community. And it just makes me happy to know that we're actually helping people out there and make really good decisions based on what they need. Because like you said, just because somebody has something doesn't mean maybe that was for them. And maybe there's something that's different for you. So for me, I just always say everybody's different. So don't compare yourself to somebody else's situation. So it's a needs analysis, trying to figure out what exactly you need, your benefit, what's your budget? Do you travel? There's just so many different things, like who's your doctor? So just go in with an open mind.
Absolutely. You have to have an open mind with this.
Yes.
And with a mindset and pen and paper, because there's going to be a lot of information that before you know it, your eyes are going to glaze over and it can get frustrating. But when you have someone who's working on your behalf and not just trying to make a sale, then you're going to learn as you go. And
you'll know right away if someone's just trying to get you on plan X, Y, or Z.
Right. While we're on that, though, too, the one thing I would like to say is that I think in the last, we did talk about the advertisement on the TV. And a lot of times if you hear some of these added benefits that they offer, whatever they say, dental, vision, hearing, it is always going to be pertinent to your zip code, to your current situation, to each plan's offering. So there really shouldn't be, no one should be saying a blanket statement of you are eligible, you deserve these, or you could get these. You know, those terms aren't always true. It just, you may be eligible for these. And so you really have to do your research and hopefully get with an agent to go over which plans may have, if dental is more important to you, maybe than transportation, for example, and one plan offers more of it and the other doesn't offer any of it. I mean, these are the situations that you would be looking at, but they know on the TV, on the ads, they say that you can get all of them. And that's just not true.
But it has like a small disclaimer at the bottom that's hard to read. And it says,
of course.
And then it says it there at the very bottom where no one really reads.
Right. And that's where you have to make sure you're comparing apples to apples.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're in the right area.
Yeah.
This is the information. This is why it gets to be very frustrating for me when I reach this area where there's so much that needs to be understood, and dealing with a time period, and then you're juggling your day-to-day, you're juggling the care for your loved one, and it's hard to get all of this in. And one of the things that I had to experience was helping mom, finally figured out what she needed, knew the number that I needed to contact or find the person, and eventually they said I could speak to them on behalf of my mother, but they needed her physically there to confirm I was in fact talking for her and that she could give them the permission over the phone. This is where that compliance area comes in. And so when you're working with this compliance and you're trying to balance the details of Medicare, this is where you absolutely have to know what you're dealing with and what you need so you can reach that person who can give you what you need. And when you have that phone call, it may be that phone call that leads you to another phone call. But in this case, the way you are educating them, it stops them from having to go elsewhere.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you on that statement. Yeah. And I can only imagine how frustrating it is for you if you're trying to get the permission that maybe wasn't already sent in. I mean, there's a form that needs to be filled out, even if you were there during your mother's enrollment process or whatever she selected, and they put it on the application, you still have to send in a form. And you may even still, every year. And you may even still have to get on the phone with her to get permission that way. It is frustrating, but it's also because of the potential fraud. And exactly. Right. But, the other thing, since we're talking about that, the reason it's that way is because when you come to the Medicare world, the whole insuring your family thing is gone. It's all individualized. So you and your spouse would have your own separate Medicare cards. And so if one of you like company A that you're going to put with Medicare, but the other like company B, that's fine because it's individualized. And you're not going to insure each other. You're insuring yourself and only yourself. And I run into situations where 65-year-old people are still, grandparents of their grandchild, but they're the actual parent or guardian. And they're like, I need to insure my child, who's 9 or 12 or 14.
True.
And you cannot do that with Medicare. You have to get a standalone plan somewhere else because Medicare is individualized.
It's a solid point, because that is something that we said in a previous show, that you're used to what you had in the corporate world or working along, and it may have similarities, but when it comes down to it, it's not exactly the same. And that is something to consider.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
The terminologies will carry over. Deductibles, co-pays, co-insurances. And I do think that if you learn that real well, that eliminates some of the learning curve,
Yeah.
And it is a learning curve.
Yeah, because I have some clients that are Medicare eligible, and they have, a 24 24-year-old or a 25-year-old, somebody who's under 26 on their employer plan, you know, because you can still insure up to 26. I think that's what the age is now.
Yeah,
and they're like eager to get on Medicare, but they're like, I don't want to drop because then my son or daughter is going to lose their insurance. And then they get to a point where, you know, they're past 26 and they end up getting off their employer plan and saving a lot of money that way.
I actually do run into that a lot with husbands and wives on the TRS program. That's like, you know, I have to pay whatever it is, $400 or $500 a month to keep my husband or wife
to add a spouse.
On it.
Just skyrockets.
Well, because if they go individually to the Medicare, they can't insure their spouse, and sometimes it's actually cheaper to be on the employer plan than for you to leave and go on Medicare and then send your spouse on some individualized plan out in the street, right? Wow. Because they don't have Medicare, so it can be more expensive that way, and it's better to stay on the employer plan.
So many scenarios to consider, but it's always good to talk to an expert.
You know, and now that you say that, I realize now why some people stay on past, you know, they choose to stay on. Some people aren't ready for retirement at 65. That's an age that is thrown out there for eligibility, but some people aren't ready for retirement at that point. And they do still receive a benefit to stay working and active and keep the plans going. But they have to, at that point, they start having to consider their own personal needs over their family's needs. And it does create a little bit of a
decision making. And I did also want to mention, going back to just having original Medicare, and if you're a spouse of somebody who didn't work, I believe you can still get the Medicare A and B through the spouse.
Correct.
Yeah. So just like, even if you haven't worked and you were just a stay-at-home mom and never put in those hours, you can pull it from your husband, or vice versa. If the husband was a stay-at-home dad, vice versa, they can pull it from their spouse.
As long as they have worked, you know, at least 40 quarters and paid into the Social Security system.
And same thing with children too. If they're disabled, they can pull it from their parent.
Oh, that's good to know. I like to call the stay-at-home parents the home engineers.
Love that. That's great.
Their positions are far greater than anyone could ever imagine what they would be.
It's a full-time job.
It is. It absolutely is. It never stops. So this has been a lot of information to digest, and I understand that insurance in general it's tricky, and you're dealing with costs, you're dealing with benefits, you're dealing with changing needs. But if you're not in a mindset to even think about them and you're just dismissing it, you're actually going to end up costing yourself more money in the long run. And so I would like you to take the time, if you haven't already, especially with an approaching an open enrollment time period now, to either look at your current policy, see what you've got. Does it still cover? Do you need to update it? Maybe your loved one has something that it was set and put on the back of their mind and forgotten. Have you reviewed it anytime? Have they reviewed it? Have you maybe take some time, sit down with your parent and ask them, so, hey, mom and dad, what is it that you have? What kind of coverage do you have? And maybe it's an opportunity for you to learn, so that as maybe what they have is what they need at this point. But as time continues to change and, you know, life happens, it just does. And so when it happens, you are prepared, because you know in your mind, or maybe it's that back of your mind, oh, I looked into this when the time was there, and now I know I may not need this now. They may not need this now, but I know of this. And regardless of the changes that happen in the political world, these are things that you need to be aware of, what they are now and what they may change to be. Because that may honestly be what changes your mind as whether you work or not, where you work or not.
Is it worth it?
Exactly. Exactly. These are items that it may not reduce or remove all the stress of a caregiver, but when you are having to help your loved one and you are on the phone and you are in unknown territory, it's hard to understand and digest everything that's being given to you. And so to avoid that fire hose, drinking from the fire hose knowledge, take it piecemeal.
Mm-hmm.
Take advantage of the opportunity, the time, and take it in
That's
piecemeal.
great advice.
Believe it or not, I think the Medicare part itself is the easier part. It's what is a supplement? What is the Medicare Part D
Right.
plan? What is Medicare Advantage? But Medicare Part A and Part B is just hospital and doctor coverage. And
It took me the longest time to understand the differences between Medicare and Medicaid, let alone Medicare and the Part A and B.
Right.
That's a whole other, that could be a whole other episode as well, with a whole
And so
Medicaid side of everything.
Medicare is, because you mentioned before, Medicare is a federally funded program, but Medicaid is run state by state.
Exactly.
Correct.
So you may find some similarity in your states where you are, but Medicaid is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, it's a whole different subject. Yeah.
It really is. And that's what's even more confusing because, you could have, there's Medicaid under 65. So that has nothing to do with Medicare.
Right.
And some people qualify for that and some people don't. And their eligibility and requirement rules are completely different than what it would be when you're over 65 and you have Medicare. It's also different if you're under 65 and you have Medicare and you're getting Medicaid. So, but Medicaid is a good thing that'll help people for sure.
And it varies, like you said, state by state, and there's different levels. And so we have a lot of Medicare, Medicaid clients too, and there's plans specifically for them. So if you are eligible or think you're eligible, I say apply. You just never know. A lot of my clients are like, well, I'm not sure if they'll accept me. And I said, well, it's better. You might as well try. Submit the application. The worst thing they can say is no.
Exactly.
The best thing they can say is yes, or even extra help will help. There's if you don't qualify for full Medicaid, there's something called extra help, a low income subsidy, where you get extra help for your prescription meds. And so again, that's based on all you can apply on ssa.gov. So
I actually have situations where whether they're under 65 or over 65, somebody has Medicare and Medicaid, and again, they didn't read properly, and they look at a Medicare Advantage plan and they see one that is only designed for those who have Medicare only, and they see all of the copays that they would have to pay. And this is somebody who's on Medicare and Medicaid, which would sometimes mean that they have more fixed income.
Exactly.
And so it is important to know that even though we're throwing out all these terms and talking about all these options that go with Medicare, there is special needs options, which are those who have Medicare and Medicaid that are designed to make sure that your primary, your specialist, your hospital copays are zero copay, because the Medicaid steps in to help. So, and which is what somebody who has Medicare and Medicaid has now. And so it's not designed to take away what they currently have. It's just designed to come and enhance what they currently have. Offering additional benefits like over-the-counter stuff. So, and these things help. I mean, I have clients who say that I saved their life because they come in and offer plans that give them about $400 or credits, can't really say dollars, but 400 credits a year to order things like vitamins, toothpaste, incontinence, walkers, things, Tylenol, vitamins. I think I said that already, but still the point is it all helps, because that's money that they would spend normally out of their pocket for things that they need at the pharmacy that they could get shipped to their home and have the insurance company pay for. So
absolutely. So that's putting money in their pocket.
Essentially, right? Without physically doing it.
Right.
It's keeping their physical dollar there. Yeah.
And even healthy food credits, so they can get,
some of them will be offering that kind of healthy meal deal and all that stuff.
They have that in certain areas already. Yeah. So lots of extra benefits that people can be eligible for that they don't even know they're eligible for.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes when people are on Medicare or Medicaid, they compare that to others. And so they don't even know. If someone doesn't have it, they don't know that it exists.
Right.
So definitely need to ask, because if you don't ask, you won't learn.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't know. So thank you guys for going through this information with me. You totally helped me personally, because I have my own notes of what I need to follow up on Mom's Medicare. But at the same time, I hope this has helped you, the caregiver out there that didn't know this was out there. And I hope this has brought some attention to the younger caregiver out there that may have heard the word Medicare, and you just, maybe like I did years ago, rolled my eyes and thought, I don't need it. I'm too young. That's later. Well, when you enter this world of a caregiver, nothing is too soon or too late, or majority of the time it's too late. We should have acted sooner or something to that effect. So take the time, take advantage of the time, be proactive. So as they go through this information and they realize they want to make some updates, Monique and Joe, how do the others find you to help with their plans?
So we do have a website. It's www.barajasinsurancegroup.com. I'll spell it. It's Barajas, that's B as in boy, ARAJAS, and then the word insurance group. So www.barajasinsurancegroup.com. You can also call us at 1-888-347-2278. That's 1-888-347-2278.
We're also on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, so you could check out our posts, and you can message us there as well, at Barajas Insurance Group.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So I hope this gave you more food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. I told you it was going to be a long one, and it's a lot of information. As you re-listen to it, because I'm sure many will, take your notes, follow through, and until next time, be proactive. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about proactive caregiving and to hear other episodes of this podcast, please visit www.jessicalizelcannon.com. This podcast is produced by Cannon Light Media, LLC, www.cannonlightmedia.com. Music provided by Khris Paradise.